Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to have my buddy Rafael Cortez on. He's been on the show a while back. It's been over a year. We were just talking about it. It seemed like 2 months, but it's been over a year. And we've been spending a bunch of time together lately over the past, this is like 3 weeks in a row that we're hanging out. Of course, the last couple of weeks have been in person. I was out in Phoenix and you were here at Investor Fuel in Dallas. Rafael is just an amazing guy. And honestly, for as much as I talk about scale and trying to help people scale, like he's a scale master of systems and processes. And in fact, today we're going to be talking about mindset stuff because he's a coach that helps people scale as well. And we were talking about what we're going to talk about and just had some great discussions on just the mental side of this business. And I think if you've been in the business for a while, and even if you've been scaled up, it's what a weird time to just live in America. What a weird time to be running a business. And so all of our mindsets are a little bit screwed up of, what's up and what's down, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Real Estate Investing Secrets. We're all looking for freedom and the opportunity to live better, more fulfilling lives. But most of us were trained our entire lives to work for someone else and chase their dreams. How can we use real estate investing as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom? My life is dedicated to answering your real estate investing questions and helping you build an investing business that allows you to change your life and the world around you, and to enable you to turn your dreams of financial freedom into a reality. My name is Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com, and your questions get answered here on the Real Estate Investing Secrets Show. Rafael, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me back. It's an honor, dude.
Always good to hang out with you. We've been hanging out a ton. As you know, for you guys can see Rafael's office there. He's got the sweetest office I've ever been in. And I was out there a couple weeks ago and I was like jealous of this office. So
Do a pivot on the camera. There's the office.
yeah, he's got it's like a museum. He's got motorcycles set up in there and punching bags and just like it's a total like man cave, right?
Yeah, the stuff that I can't get away with at home, I guess I come in and do it at the office.
That's right. Yeah, you got a place there. So, hey, tell us real fast. Tell us about a little bit about your background for those that don't know you yet.
Thank you again. My name's Rafael Cortez. I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona. So this is my main market. I do a lot of wholesale. I do fix and flip. I've been in real estate since 2009. I own a brokerage here in town as well. So we do traditional stuff. So everything when it comes to real estate investments, I mean, we tried it all, from the residential, the commercial, the wholesale, the investments, creative financing, and all of that stuff in between, right? By career, I'm an organizational psychologist. So my thing is it's people and systems, right? Which plays right into the topic that we're gonna be covering today. But yeah, I mean, basically what I do is I put people and systems together and make them work, in a symbiotic way for the sake of business and operations. I mean, that's mainly one of my biggest spaces where.
Yeah. And we were talking right before we kind of hit record here. We were talking about just this idea of self-sabotage, and I know that I've done it. There's areas in my life that I do something, and I look back on it. And I'm like, why did I do that? Like, why did I make that as hard as I did? And it didn't need to be. And I think there's a lot of us that do some element of this, and it's like it's deep in your soul as to why that's happening, right? It doesn't make sense. It's not like you're consciously thinking about it, but it's like you're aiming at something and you just let stuff get in the way that shouldn't, right? And so have you've coached a lot of people too. Have you seen some of that where people just sabotage their own results, right? It could be that they don't think they're worthy, or it could be they don't even know why they're doing it, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Every single day, man. I see it every single day, and not just from students, right? Thankfully, thank God, I have a lot of students throughout the country, but I mean, we have default modes of behavior psychologically, right? There's stuff that we just go back to whenever we get stressed. If you're, for example, you're doing wholesaling and you're cold calling, and then you get rejected, 10 times, and you feel demoralized, you're gonna build stress. Right. And we go back to our default actions. And a lot of that stuff is tends to be negative. Why? Because we beat ourselves up as we're growing up for the stuff that we couldn't accomplish. Right. If we didn't get first place on that race, I mean, we feel bad as we were little. If we sucked at baseball, right, it wasn't in our lane. And I'm using personal examples here. So we start feeling like we're not enough. Right. But what happens is that we start to get programmed to respond that way to new challenges. And as we, go through life, even if we're really good at something, we're going to forget, we're going to lose the awareness of it and go back to default thinking, default modes. And a lot of times that's what happens, right? You see people just, staying in flow and then start to become fearful of losing it all, or losing the groove, or they get to a point where they start to hit this glass ceiling and start doing things in terms of self-sabotage that may not necessarily always look like self-sabotage, right? It doesn't always look bad. So it's not, always depressing or anything, but that you're going to take a vacation in the middle of a time that you shouldn't be taking a vacation, right? So because of where you were at in a process, in a deal transaction or whatever, but we'll start doing that kind of stuff. Almost in pursuit of that instant gratification when we know it's not the best course of action at that time. And it's happened to me a bunch of times in the past.
Yeah.
And what happens is that we circle back, like we come back to that, point of beginning where we feel comfortable. Like at the end of the day, we want to go back to that space that we know. If we feel, quote unquote, comfortable, we're very familiar with building from the ground up. Whenever we get to a point of success that scares us, that's going to demand a better version of us. We start, I don't know, add a zero to your deals, right? Like that's going to make you nervous. It's incredible how far we will go to just reset that and come back to that comfort zone.
And you know what I think exacerbates all that is that a lot of people that are watching us or seeing on social media or whatever, I don't mean this in a negative way, they're just operating. If you're a high performer, like most people are further back than you are. And so you almost like feel like, so like you said, nobody's going to say anything because most people already think you're way ahead of them. So they're not even, so you won't feel bad if you're not successful because many aren't at that level. Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of holds you back, or you pull yourself back to a lower level than what you could achieve. And it would be different if you were, for example, you were just at Investor Fuel, right? So if you're in a network of people that are high achievers, like you might hit this ceiling, which is just in your head probably, right? But if you were around a different group of people that were operating at a way higher level, you'd be able to blow past that, no problem. There's just this, like you said, a glass ceiling, and it's really a fake glass ceiling. It's not even real. You just hit this thing and you just get stuck because that is, the network you have right now, or the people you've surrounded yourself with, or the mindset of this is, I'm ahead of everybody else. Why do I need to keep pushing further? But if you got around another circle that would help you push to another level, you would be at the starting line still, maybe, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what happens too? I mean, we become.
I didn't say that very succinctly, but I think,
yeah, no, I get the point. And what happens too is that, I mean, as time goes on, we become creatures of habit. And we want to be familiar with our surroundings. We want to be familiar with, with the stuff that surrounds us on a regular basis, right? And we'll fight for that. We'll also fight to be right. So if your wiring, if your psyche is telling you that you have I don't know, call it a financial thermostat, right? I'm going to be able to hit this number, and that number is just a big number for me, and it feels scary. It feels like you're out there. That may be 50K for some people, 100K for some people, $1 million for other people, right? But we have this financial thermostat. I mean, to paint an example on how we kind of reset psychologically, when we get around that area, right, we'll start to roll out self-sabotage, because subconsciously, success can also create fear, right? Again, it's going to demand a higher version of yourself. It's going to demand more commitment. It's going to demand you putting yourself in a space where maybe you don't control everything. Maybe you don't know all the ins and outs, and you're not as comfortable, right? I remember my first company took me 8 years to build that thing up. And I mean, I got to a point where I was like, fish in water, right? Swimming in that particular business, transportation, and I was doing really, really well. And as soon as I jumped into real estate, like I started being all kinds of risk averse, and doubt started creeping in, and my character, my behavior just absolutely changed from that confident, self and entrepreneur, person that I was in that industry, to this other one that was like, what the heck am I doing? What is going on? Right. But that's because that landscape is just, we don't know it yet. And if we make the intention, if we become intentional about moving forward, and I think what happens to you is a lot of times we don't have a clear vision. We don't have a clear path of where we want to go. And that creates a lot of noise, right? It creates a lot of noise, and anything that comes along our path is going to be a good option, because we don't have anything set in as a destination, right? And it doesn't mean that it's going to be the exact, same path that you imagine you're going to walk that path. Maybe you're going to have to pivot a couple of times and whatnot, but you're going to have I call it a lighthouse, right? You're going to have this beacon that you want to get to, right? And if we have that and we have a clear perspective on what that looks like, everything that we do from here to there, right, starts to get in alignment.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, because we'll get one of the biggest things that I see in self-sabotage, for example, is shiny object syndrome. Like, I'm doing this strategy, but I saw that on social media, so I'm going to move out, and then everything that's working right now, I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to go that because that looks, sexy. And what happens? I mean, you're moving your entire thing because you don't have a stronghold on that final, or ultimate vision that you want to accomplish, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing that happens is there's this saying, I don't know where I heard this from, but I've used it a lot lately, that you can hustle your way to 7 figures, but not to 8.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is once you, like, this is going to sound like ego driven, right? But I think, like, I could show anybody how to, this is a big deal for people that are in a W-2 job. I could show anybody how to create a business that's $1 million a year. Like, getting to 10 is way harder, right? So what I think happens is people get up to that level where they have a nice, like, 7-figure business, and they get a little bit bored, and they like the adrenaline from being able to hustle your way to create something else, because that appears to be easier to do than to go from, let's just say, $2 or $3 million a year business to 10, right? Because they don't have the skill, like, they got the skill set to go start over and create another $2 or $3 million business, but they don't have the skill set, and they're not willing to put in the effort or whatever it is, the investment or whatever, to take that 3 to 10, which honestly would be easier. But in their mind, they just think, what? Because it's a different approach. It's like management of resources versus hustle. Like, they can go hustle and do something else, and they know how to do that, but they don't have the skill set yet to be a manager and a good steward of taking on investment, whatever it takes you to get from 3 to 10. But that would probably ultimately give you the freedom that you want, because if you're going from 3 to 10 million, like, if you're hustling your way to low 7-figure businesses, and not to say that that doesn't provide a good lifestyle, you don't have the resources to have a robust team.
Right.
And this is industry specific, but if you have a $2 or $3 million real estate business, you're probably still doing a lot of stuff. Like, you don't have a huge bench of a team, but if you went from 3 to 10, you would have a COO, you would have a bunch of resources to pay for things, right?
I think it's really tough to go from 3 to 10 without having that stuff in place.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So you just fall back on, well, I could go start, like, doing something else, flipping cars, right? And you could hustle your way to a couple $1 million business again, but it's not going to give you that freedom that you probably want.
And I think also what happens too is that fear of failure becomes a lot more real, right? Because I mean, and I love bootstrap scenarios. People who just, they say, okay, I want to improve my life. I want to get better. I mean, that's really my passion, is coaching bootstraps and, bootstrap entrepreneurs, because I'm one of those, right? But it's I feel like at the beginning, you're hungry. You're okay. Well, I got, there's nowhere else to go but up. Right. I'm going to climb this mountain. We're doing everything it takes to get, to this point. The fear of failure is not really, it's not that predominant. Why? Because we're building stuff. And then you get to a point where you have, stuff, you have achieved, a few things. And now maybe you have a network, you have a decent business, you have employees and all that stuff. And then the fear becomes a lot more real. And I think that's where people just kind of pull back. A lot of that doubt starts to creep in back into your psyche. There's a lot of doubt when we begin, right? And a lot of stuff that holds us back from taking action. But at the end of the day, like, I think it's all a cycle. If we're not aware of how we react to our own psychological triggers, right? That's one. And then we don't know how to navigate through them. Like, we're going to get stuck every single time. That fear and that uncertainty, that maybe sense of unworthiness comes in. Like, who am I to be making 10 mil a year? Or who am I to be, part of this group of elite people? That's a long process. Right.
Yeah. It just made me think of this analogy. And as a guy, and it's, we, of course, we have women that listen to, but everybody will appreciate this. We all have those friends that will never get married because they date somebody and it gets to a certain level and they just want to start over. Like, and the truth is things get a little tough, things get a little more serious. Now you got to step up, and they somehow sabotage it and they just like start over with dating somebody else again. And, they're like 40, 50 years old and probably have never been married and probably never will, because it's just easy for them to go hustle their way to a new relationship because there's no real responsibilities, and they just sabotage themselves, right? It's like that in business too. I think people, and I just thought of this analogy, and I hopefully the one really good friend of mine that fits exactly what I just said isn't listening to this, because he'll be like, "You're talking about me." But it's like things get hard. It's hard to stay married, right? It's hard, and it's hard to commit to a higher level business because there are more stakes. There's more to lose. There's more people that you're responsible for. But I think when people are starting off, that's where everybody says they want to get to. But then when you start to get to that point, like you said, sometimes you start questioning, am I worthy of this? Am I capable of this? And the truth is, nobody came out of the womb being a CEO of a $10 million company or having that skill set. You have to learn those things. You have to get coaching. You have to join masterminds. You have to read a lot of books. Like, you have to lose a lot and fail your way forward and learn from those things.
Yeah, 100%, man. We have to get out of our own heads, right? It's that quiet place can be a scary place sometimes. I'm not saying don't ever be there. We have to be there to contemplate and, come up with original ideas and kind of find ourselves, who we truly are, right? But also we spend too much time in that quiet place, and we're not, tapping into different perspectives, reaching it out, to people who are going through the journey that we're looking to go into. We're missing out on big opportunities. I mean, I learned from you and everybody else around us on a regular basis. It opens up perspective, and once we have that seed, right, it's really hard to lie to ourselves, because somebody else has done it. It's possible. You have the proof of concept, although it's not mine yet. I see it happening on a regular basis. Now it becomes a matter of, cool, am I going to commit to this thing? And am I committed, or am I interested in really changing the lifestyle that I have? Am I committed, or am I interested in becoming an entrepreneur? If I'm interested, dude, anything, a new Netflix series is going to throw me off the wagon, right? Anything is gonna create distance between me and my goal. If I'm committed, though, it's gonna take a lot of force to break me from that vision, right? To throw me off the path. Again, sometimes we have to come in and pivot. If the market is weird and we have to navigate stuff, okay, cool. Go back to the drawing board, analyze the basics, see what's up. See if you need to pivot into something else, but don't lose sight of that one thing that lights you up in the morning. Every morning, I guarantee you have this. Every morning, because achievers and the most successful people that I know wake up with this fire in the gut. And it's almost an excitement. We don't wake up in the morning like, I got to go to work again. No, we wake up, it's like, shit, what amazing stuff is going to happen, right? What connections am I going to make? What opportunities are going to come up? How am I going to, help somebody improve their life? How is somebody else going to improve my life, right? So I think a lot of that, has to be adopted. And it took a while for me to just kind of sit with that kind of stuff, right? But those are internal conversations that we have. If we don't get out of the of that, quiet space and tap into, again, different groups, different perspectives. Even if you have a best friend or just a friend or an acquaintance or something, make it a habit of, sitting down for lunch and then catching up. Okay, where are you at? How are you feeling? We have a men's group, dude. Like it used to be, weird to have a men's group, right? Because guys get together and then they talk about, how they're feeling, what their mindset is. All these guys are crushing it, right? And we get together once a month, and then we just do a kind of like a touch. We're touching base. How are you doing? It's a group of about 12 of us, and it's a big support thing, right? That plays right into the power of masterminds, the power of just getting out of our own heads. And sometimes a simple conversation is gonna reset your ambition. It's gonna reset your job.
That's great. We talk about that in Investor Fuel. It's kind of a play on words, like come to recharge your batteries, right? Is like they kind of get reinvigorated and to see what's possible too. If you're in the right circle, and if you're the biggest guy in the circle or woman, like that's not ideal. Like you always want to be, you'd be better off being the smallest person in that circle versus the biggest, right? I'll give you a perfect story for this. This is really an eye opener for me yesterday. I love what I do, and I love what I get to do, and I love all the freedoms that I have. But long story short, I met my wife in grad school. We went to one of the top 20 or so MBA programs in the country. Great program, and I think there's a bunch of people that are kind of stuck in middle management. And in the past, I've I have some friends. I'm like, man, I'm so much better off than where they are. I kind of stuck
Yeah.
at, middle management for some job, whatever. And I've said that a few times where I've thought that. And then yesterday, there's a guy that I was pretty good friends with in our program, which I'm going to date myself here. We actually have our 20-year reunion coming up in September. And there's a Facebook group for our class, and there's a guy in there that I was pretty good friends with. I haven't talked to in honestly 20 years since we graduated. And I just found out for the past 2 years, he's the CEO of a $10.5 billion oil company.
Wow.
And I'm like, and he's a couple years younger than me. I'm like, damn, just thinking what's possible. Like this guy that he was in my small group. So we studied together like every day for a couple of years for the most part, is now a CEO of a $10 billion company, right?
Yeah.
And any of us that are listening to this can do that too. And for him, and I haven't talked to him again in 20 years, but he's got issues that he's dealing with, I'm sure. But it's some of the same stuff. If you let the fear of success, the fear of change, thinking you're not worthy, all that stuff get in the way, like he wouldn't be there either, right? So any of us can achieve bigger things. And sometimes my point in saying all this is it's just a matter of believing you can do it and being around people that are doing it and just keep pushing it to the next level, right?
100%, man. It's the like one thing that I this is how I gauge whether or not I'm in the right room. If I feel inadequate,
Yeah.
if I have a feeling of inadequacy, and it's almost, I mean, I don't want to say intimidation, but it's like, okay, cool. If I have to think about how can I bring value to this group, if I walk into a group and okay, I know automatically, what I'm going to do, and I have a confidence of 1,000 walking into the room, more than likely it's not the right room, right? For me, right? It's like I want to feel inadequate. I want to feel like, okay, cool. There like I have to stretch myself to really put myself in the line here because these people are crushing it. These people are I'm learning from them. So I have to bring my, my higher and best version, forward, right? So it's just kind of a way of looking at things. So everybody listening out there, I suggest you start looking at events, real estate investor associations, at meetups, at groups. I mean, if you don't have one in your circle, in your area, I mean, put one together. Start scouting. Get 5 people that you feel are like top level players. They're committed. Get them into a room. I'm telling you, magic will happen. Like that's the first thing to get out of that funky mindset that we sometimes get bogged down with.
Yeah, I know both of us. Now, coincidentally, the last 2 weeks, I came out and spoke at you had a group gathering, some amazing people there. I think you had that night you had like 60 or 70 people in your office there, something like that. And then you came to my Investor Fuel event, which is a pretty large event.
Great event, man. I love
I think both of us really believe in the power of community so much that we're community creators, right? And so that's good. That's a good tip. So with the rest of our time here, maybe you could talk a little bit about some action items. People, and everybody's guilty of this. I mean, I get in my own head. And here I am thinking that, not that I have a lot of ego thinking of look at all the stuff that I've created, but then I get it. I just told you a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in a long time is running a $10 billion company. I'm like, damn, maybe I need to think bigger, right?
He's looking at another dude that's running $100 million.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no doubt about it, right? And so, but talk about for folks that are listening to this, that know that they do some self-sabotage or know they get in the way of their own success, which probably everybody listening to this does at some level. Let's talk about some action items, some things that they can go apply to improve.
I would call everybody out to focus on 2 things. One is going to be clarity. And the other one is going to be deciding whether you're committed to something or you're interested in something. Okay. So get clear about whatever that vision looks like. I mean, one of the things that I do on a regular, I mean, I don't know, you probably saw me carrying this around at the Investor Fuel Mastermind, but I always carry a notebook. I'm always taking notes. I take time to journal. Journal for me, it's a mind dump. So I have this mind dump exercise that I do on a daily basis. What happened yesterday, I have a gratitude, section in there. And it's just me taking 20, 30 minutes in the morning when I wake up and I'm fresh. to, to give gratitude. It's really hard to be pessimistic when you're being grateful about stuff, right? So I intentionally line up my day in the morning that way. All right. So I take some time, for me, just to be in my space and whatnot, and kind of quiet my mind, go into gratitude, and then I start journaling. Okay, what my ideal day would look like, stuff that is lined up, but I never forget about the big picture. Okay, what do I want to, what am I shooting for in 3 years, right? And then I see myself in that space, and I sit with it. And at the beginning, it can be a little distracting, because you're going to start thinking about a million other things other than that one vision that you're trying to kind of shape in your head. But after a while, it starts to become more and more clear. So get clear about where you want to be. I mean, what does that look like? What does your office, your work environment, what does it look like? The people around you, who do you want to be acquainted, with? What kind of events do you want to be attending? What kind of spotlight do you want, if any, right? What kind of results do you want in your business? So get clear about all that kind of stuff. Then have a realistic conversation about where you're at right now. And like, this is a you and you conversation. And get, decide whether you're interested in creating that better version of yourself, because it's going to demand a whole other individual, right? I went 30 years of my life thinking I was crushing it, and then I hit 30, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, I can do more. I can actually make an impact on people, but it's going to demand a lot more of me. It's going to demand a different version. And the catalyst for all that to happen was me getting committed to it, as opposed to being interested. When we're interested, it's easy to just, flake and waffle, right? With decision and actions. But if you're committed and you have a clear outcome on the vision that you want to get to, trust me, you're going to figure things out. You're going to figure out, because you're going to start brainstorming, and you're going to start getting obsessive almost about, that particular vision, right? And you're gonna start thinking about who can I bring into my world, or who can I reach out to that maybe can help me get there. And now you start to create alliances and connections, and you start. It's incredible how the whole thing just kind of starts to unravel and manifest, right? We call it manifestation, but in reality, I think it's us being intentional about where we want to get to, and then recognizing the resources along the way. Like that's a lot of what happens. I mean, in psychology, it's called the reticular activating system, right? We just pay more attention to the stuff that we're interested in. The crazy thing is that we don't often clarify what we're interested in. So begin with that.
Yep. And I think when you start to vocalize it too, in front of other people, your peers or people that you respect, then it forces you to start taking different actions. Like, man, I committed to this. And so if you've ever done anything, like you've said, like, hey, I'm just publicly announcing that I'm going to lose like 30 pounds in the next 6 months. It's like, it's kind of out there now. And it's some level of accountability, right? Like you've kind of laid down the gauntlet, and people are going to ask you about, hey man, how's your weight loss going? And the last thing you want to say is like, I haven't done a damn thing,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So
awesome, man. So Rafael, you a huge giver in the industry here. If folks want to reach out to you, I know you do a lot of coaching, mainly around helping people scale up their systems and processes and things like that. Obviously a lot of mindset stuff too. Like if they want to reach out to you, you've got a podcast, you've got all kinds of things going on. Kick-ass office. We've already talked about that. Aside from dropping your address, they come check out your kick-ass office. Where would they reach out to you and learn more?
You can find me everywhere on social media. I'm pretty active on Instagram at Rafael Cortez CEO. That's on there. I do have I coach real estate wholesale, and I scale real estate wholesaling businesses, right? So I help students through a couple of different programs. You can find more about that on reiwholesaling.com. You can also download a free course that I have on there, the Wholesaling 101 course. It gives you a good breakdown and overview of what the entire process looks like and how you can get to your first deal and that sort of thing. So it's really good content. It's a solid training program that I put together there, and that's completely free. So they can find it at reiwholesaling.com.
Awesome. We'll add a link down in the show notes here. So thanks for hanging out with me 3 weeks in a row now, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing my mic fix.
We got to figure out what we're going to do next week, I guess.
Bro,
yeah, awesome.
So
guys, I think hopefully this was timely for you. I think there's a lot of stuff over the past couple of years that's made us kind of question why we do what we do, what's possible. Like the economy's fizzling a little bit. There's some people that are thriving. what makes somebody thrive versus just kind of get by or step back because they say the market's bad. It's between your ears, right? It's that mindset that you have of believing in yourself, believing what's possible, and being intentional about what your goals are and just going after them. So hopefully this was a little shot in the arm for you today. Many thanks to Rafael for sharing some great insights. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Everybody, appreciate you a bunch. Thanks for joining us again. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for listening to today's show. There are 3 ways I can help you start or grow your real estate investing business. If you're a new investor and just getting started, the Flip Nerd Investor Coaching Program is the most effective program in America. I've been coaching and mentoring new real estate investors for 10 years, and my students have literally purchased thousands and thousands of properties. Many of them started with little to no experience at all. Our program is a paint-by-numbers program where we tell you exactly what to do week by week to make sure that you don't get distracted on your way to results. We show you how to build a real business, not just create another job for yourself. New memberships are limited. You can learn more and apply or schedule a call with me and my team at flipnerd.com/coaching. If you're an experienced investor doing a minimum of 10 deals a year, up to 500 deals a year or more, or have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio already, you should check out our powerful Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. Over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors are members, and it's not uncommon for our members to 2 to 5x their business just from getting around other members at Investor Fuel. At Investor Fuel, each of us are business advisors to one another's businesses, but we don't stop at business. We focus heavily on becoming better people and living fuller lives. If you're looking for fuel for your business or fuel for your life, please check out investorfuel.com. Applications and interviews are required as most investors are not a fit for our community. Please learn more at investorfuel.com. If you're not ready for coaching or masterminds but eager to start learning more about investing, please join our private Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/Facebook. New members get access to free training from us right here at flipnerd.com, and it's a community to safely ask your questions, a great place to get started. Simply go to flipnerd.com/Facebook to request your access today.